Welcome, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Lewanika, and this is Tabletop Journeys, where we will be your not so humble guides on the quest for RPG adventures.
Welcome, everybody, to tonight's episode. So, this is a little weird. We're doing something different tonight, and we're trying on a new hat, so to speak. So, for those of you that are watching us on YouTube or potentially Spotify or potentially on the website, kind of not sure where this is going to show up, but you are actually seeing not only my smiling face, but also the always smiling, always pretty face of my co-host, Mr. Lewanika Miller. Lewanika, how the hell are you tonight? What is going on down in Connecticut?
It's been awesome. Like, this has been a great week for gaming. It's been a great week for fun. It's been an amazing week for family since we last got together. My wife and I celebrated our 9th anniversary
Yeah.
of marriage. We've actually been together far longer than that. It's not like we met and got married. We're not on TLC or nothing. You know,
90 Day Fiance or whatever.
yeah, really. There's no mayonnaise in my hairdo. If you know, you know. And Josh, methinks you know. Um, yeah, I'm crossing audiences here. They
I don't
probably
even know
want,
what to
but
do with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 But
Well,
no,
so let me try to go ahead and bring
it's
some sense and order to
yeah,
this. So what,
but
what
it's
what
also
the
been a
audience might
great
not
gaming.
know, yeah, what the audience might not know is that you and I actually have the same wedding anniversary, totally
Yes.
accidentally, actually, in fact. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so obviously Jenny and I also celebrated our anniversary on the same day. So, yeah, happy anniversaries abound on that
On
particular day.
tabletop
So
journeys.
yeah.
Yeah. So in addition to that, I got out this weekend. Went to the second monthly paint day at Citadel Game Cellar. Had an amazing time. For those who have not heard me talk on this yet, and there will be a lot more to come, specifically on the right path over the next few weeks and months. Um, Essentially, my game store hosts a paint day where anybody who wants to learn to paint or just wants to paint, wants to teach other people, or just kind of chill with other gamers and paint minis comes down on the second Saturday of every month, and we paint. Folks who are experts have been doing this for a long time. Bring all their equipment, their travel bags, their little mixing devices, their little funky glasses. You know, there's no Turkish pistol shooters here. They got all the good stuff and all that, and the glasses with the magnifying fit lenses and that. I actually we made the joke on site, so this is legitimate. I'm carrying over the joke, right? And we paint. But the best part is for folks who haven't painted in like 15 years, myself, or folks who are brand new, like some of the folks that were there, or kind of anywhere in between. Um, the folks who were really good and have some expertise are actually teaching and showing people how to do different things, trying different techniques. And you don't have to have a ton of stuff to go there. Like the first month, I had none of my own brushes. I had like two paints. This month, I had about 4 or 5 additional paints. I bought some brushes with a gift card that my lovely wife provided me. I brought some paints, I bought a couple more models, and did and worked some things. Got some advice on what kind of primers to get. So I've got primers. So before next month, I can prime a bunch of my unprimed minis here and be ready for that. So now I'll start getting some ships for Star Trek ready to go, and I'm excited. I love doing that. It's been
Yeah.
such a grand time.
Yeah, I am woefully behind in my mini painting. I desperately need to go ahead and get painting again. I have in that cabinet behind me, I have probably 20 or so primed figures that's as far as I've gotten. I have primed them and I haven't done I don't even turn the light on anymore to hide my shame even more completely. Because like so many others, I mean, I have boxes and boxes of unpainted figurines that I need to go ahead and do something with at some point along here. But I'm also excited. So I've mentioned this before that I'm actually starting my first in-person game in probably 5 years, I think, since we did an in-person game. We actually have our session 0 scheduled. It's gonna happen, and so I am just really really excited. I'm excited to be doing some things. It's going to be a mix of, and I don't want to spoil it if any of them listen to the show. It's going to be a mix of some Josh Newton original and some Tabletop Journeys original homebrew type stuff, and some stuff that's not. So it's going to be kind of a little salt, a little pepper, a little bit of oil, and we're going to have a wonderful salad dressing at the end of it. So it'll be great. So I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be a good time. So yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah. So let's get rolling on to what we're going to be talking about tonight. So obviously coming to you in video format. Doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to be talking about. This is just a new format for us. We're going to be trying to do more. We've been trying to do more video content on the show in general. But yeah, and we're trying out some things right now to go ahead and see if we can make this work here. So we're gonna roll it and see what happens here. So tonight, though, we are going to be talking about a book that we have been looking to go ahead and get into now for a little while. We've made allusions to the fact that we're going to be covering it on the show a bunch, but we are going to be breaking down in short form here tonight, Quests from the Infinite Staircase. So a book that the very last book, technically, in the 2014 rule set, or is this the first book in the 2024 rule set or the last book in the 2014? They said that the Vecna book was technically the last one in the 2014 rule set, but I think that this one was also on the 2014 rule set. Just the publication deadlines got screwed up.
Yeah, this is definitely the 2014 rule set.
Yeah,
No question about it. But with what they talked about with backward compatibilities, all adventures are fine.
sure, yeah,
They will suggest if it points to a monster manual monster, you should use the newest version. So at this point, that's going to be Monsters of the Multiverse.
yep,
If it also appears in Monster Manual, if it doesn't appear in Monsters of the Multiverse Monster Manual after 2024, when the Monster Manual comes out in February of 2025,
yep,
then you'll want to use anything that it points to from that book
yep,
first.
nice,
Interesting will be to see if D&D Beyond links to both, giving players the choice or
yeah.
just one or the other.
Yeah.
That will be an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested to go ahead and see. There's a lot of things that are kind of happening with the 2024 rules that I'm finding interesting, including the experience that you and I were talking about earlier today. So, because of the new game that I'm running, I found myself that I don't actually have a hardcover copy of the 2014 Player's Guide. And so I was like, oh, well, I've got people coming. I've got brand new players that are coming. This will be the first time ever sitting down at a role playing game table. I was like, I should grab a copy of the rules. And it's hard to find a store that has a copy of the rules. If they have most of them don't have copies left, and if they don't have copies, they're not getting them. So just interesting to go ahead and see, a month before the new rules come out, how quickly they are getting rid of the old rules. So yeah. Anyway, so we've got a kind of a handful of topics that we want to talk about with Quests from the Infinite Staircase here. And Lewanika, I think you've got the first one tonight. So why don't you dive on in? What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things that struck me about this compendium of classic adventures was just the way they tied it together. Very early on, chapter one, they talk about the infinite staircase, but more specifically, what I thought and want to call out is the method of tying these adventures together. They detail some cool imagery, some cool ways to bring in characters. Each chapter does this as well, tells you where you can place it and whether or not you're using the tie-in that comes with the book or you're
Mhm.
doing your own thing. It tells you how to do that. But the tie-in that comes with the book involves this genie named Nophis.
Yeah.
And this is not a big spoiler. There's nothing. It's basically the given in the whole campaign set here. And Nophis is just an excellent character. They describe him well. They really give you a great job with his personality. Lots of good
Yep.
uh, role playing notes for GMs so that you can play this with some confidence. And the tie in to every one of these adventures is awesome.
Yeah.
The conceit here is there's a wish that somebody has that's involved in that mission. Nophis hears them from the infinite staircase, and he is basically contracting by various means.
Mhm.
That's where the players and the GM figure out why they're there and why Nofus has reached out to them or what have you, or how they get there. But he is basically contracting the players to honor that wish. And I thought there's a couple really cool things about that, not just for this game. If you've got a player who makes a wish, there's nothing that says that wish has to come direct in that moment in that way. Did that wish go to Nafis? Was that wish granted by Nafis sending a party of players to aid that character and
Yeah.
do the things that they wish for? This is brilliant beyond the scope of this book. It's just brilliant, and I
Yeah.
love it.
I also love the way that this was laid out, and I thought that the bit about Nafis and kind of the way that they paint him as like the good, responsible genie was kind of interesting. I liked that an awful lot. I really enjoyed the roll tables that were in this chapter too. The locating doors roll table was a lot of fun. There's a lot of really interesting, neat stuff on here. And when I was kind of like taking down my notes on the various topics that I thought we might discuss, the very first one that I had was a blurb that I called the Infinite MacGuffin, right? Which I thought was a really nice way to kind of sum up what this is. You know, the way the missions are structured, the infinite staircase can be anywhere and everywhere. It can be attached to anything. Anyone can find it, and it can sink into the beginning, middle, or end of any adventure that you're in. Doing that in a way that makes sense is really, really hard. So there's a lot of credit to the WotC staff for the way that they laid this out, giving giving something like this a sense of universality and actually making it universal at the same time and making it so useful is not easy. The missions are tied together, unlike some other adventure anthologies, but they don't need to be. They can really happen at any time in any order. May need some storyteller scaling to go ahead and do that, but they don't, like, it's not like they follow any sort of chronology or anything like that. You can go ahead and you can do some, not others, etc., etc. So there's a lot of kind of versatility there, and I thought that there was a lot of fertile ground to kind of pull from in order to make the infinite staircase, really sing. And in the hands of really capable storytellers, it's a great tool if this is the sort of campaign that you want to run. If you want to run kind of a multiverse spanning campaign, it's really, really neat. I really liked at the beginning of the chapter how they talked about how you could tie it into other anthologies too. And I will, spoiler alert, when I am done talking about Keys from the Golden Vault on Dr. Homebrew, I'm going to be talking about this book because I think that there's a lot of potential in this book for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I should also, giving one other spoiler, let you know that I will be running this campaign book in
Yeah.
the very near future in at least one, if not two different avenues. So
Nice.
one of those will be live in person, whether it be at various conventions and or at my local game store, but the other will be virtual with special things to come. So stay tuned, everyone. This is something that we really like, and you're going to see a lot more of.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to hop on to our second topic here, and the blurb that I wrote for this is what I called "What's Old is New Again." We have given Wizards of the Coast and the D&D staff a lot of crap over the last couple of years about their adventure construction. There have been some big misses in books that they have put out, and we have not hesitated to go ahead and call them out on that. Right? I'm looking at you, Dragonlance. I'm looking at you, Spelljammer. There were some
I'm
opportunities.
looking at you, Vecna.
Uh, there were some opportunities there that were missed, right? We have found that in general, their anthologies were great. Candlekeep, Keys from the Golden Vault is fantastic. Radiant Citadel was fantastic, right? So, like, their anthologies were great, but the adventure paths lacked a certain gravitas, right? And as well, I'm finding, or I think it's also interesting that they're going back to kind of a Greyhawk based setting in the face of the number of people that are kind of leaving modern D&D to go to OSR style games and adventures, right? So you've got players that are looking to get into kind of the older, grittier style of what D&D was in first and second edition. And you also have this tremendous wealth of material from the TSR days that Wizards really hasn't plumbed the depths of just yet. And so when you kind of combine those things together, I think that this is the book that you get, or at least this is the direction of content that you get. Right? There's a certain grit to those old adventures that players are looking for, and revisiting Greyhawk and bringing all those stories into the modern game is an incredibly smart decision, and I think it's going to reap huge benefits for them. They're going to be giving players what they want, and that's always a good thing. And as a player, I'm really excited that those old missions are getting a facelift, an update into fifth edition, and are more than just kind of like cannon fodder on my bookshelf. That like, if I need something cool, I can go back to my old books. I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of neat. How can I use it? Now I have entire books of things that are brought up to fifth edition, and I can't wait to go ahead and see what they do next with that material.
Absolutely. First of all, I also want to thank Watsy because what they have done here in this book is given me a taste of what built my love for this game. I started playing when some of these things were brand new. A couple of them were a few years old, but I started playing when you could go to a store and buy maybe a second, maybe a third printing of one of these modules. I have some of these modules. There are a couple that I really wished appeared here. Pharaoh is such an amazing adventure. All three of those were great, as a matter of fact. And probably one of my favorite 3 module sets in the
Yeah.
old game. Uh,
Pharaoh was a really, really smart, great addition into this book.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think it should not be lost while they're giving old heads like myself this eye, ear, and soul candy that are these adventures. They are also updating them in a way that feels very responsible. Now, I
Yes.
have read nearly all of this book at this point, and enough of it to feel very confident in the direction that they've headed. I'm not going to spell all the different ways. I'm going to let GMs run these games and just let you know that the NPCs, the wording on some of the characters, some of the phrasing, some of the things that were omitted, some of the things that were added. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Really well done and a great way to update with modern sensibilities while still bringing forth those great stories.
Yeah.
It's literally proof that you don't have to do sketchy things to
Yeah.
keep an old story
Yeah.
salient.
They are bringing the old stories into the new game in a responsible manner, and that's to be commended. So,
Yeah, especially from a company that has struggled with that in the past.
sure, even the very recent past,
Well, when I say the past, I'm talking
like last week.
couple months ago.
so, so, all right, my friend. Topic number 3. What do you got, sir?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about one of my all-time forever favorite adventures in the history of D&D. I have played it probably 5 different times. I have run it or versions of it 5 or 6 different times. I even ran a 5e version of this when I first started GMing 5e, and I've certainly done it several times in 3.5, and that is Expedition to Barrier Peaks. I could go really high level on a bunch of things in this book and go on within our time here tonight, but I'm not going to because I love this adventure so much. This level 11 to 13 adventure is so good for me. But I'm not going to spoil it for those who don't know about it. And for those who do know about it, guess what? There's some really cool things coming up. But one of the most important things is they made some decisions with the changes they made with this adventure that I think are indicative of the types of changes they made throughout all of these adventures.
Yeah.
Specifically, there's a little call out box where it tells you about this. And I'm actually going to read this section verbatim because I don't think I can paraphrase Watsy's words here better than the way they did it to show this off. And that's adventure changes. The spaceship that appears in this updated version of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks has been modified to include fewer empty or undescribed rooms. The spaceship has also been reorganized to place some of its more memorable encounters in areas that the characters are most likely to visit. Additionally, the supercomputer Alphelion 3000, Alfie, was created to provide a narrative structure and encourage characters to explore more of the spaceship. Look, the old adventures were very much turn left, turn right, write it down on a piece of paper, use your graph paper, whatever, and you could spend multiple sessions. Hey, we were kids, we game for 4 or 5 hours, 2 or 3 nights a week, or maybe 12 hours on a Saturday if it was raining outside and we weren't in the dirt with our bikes and our GI Joes, right? So we used to have tons of time for this. Gamers don't. That's not the modern game. So they recognize that and found great narrative tools
Yep.
and some mechanical ways to make the game pick up its pace a little bit, maintain its interest while still being true to the original story. And that is a microcosm of what they've done through every one of these adventures. There's little changes very similar to this. I very much recognize that with Pharaoh, that the amount of empty rooms were not there.
Yep.
They still had their random tables that made sense, but they were even truncated from what I recall, right? So I think this was a really brilliant game design, marketing angle, and player facing gift.
Yeah.
This was wonderful, and I think it needs to be called out as wonderful. And I can't wait to bring players through this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so this is the counterpoint to a thing that we raised when we were talking about the Vecna book. And I think that if I remember correctly, it was specifically the Spelljammer chapter it was either the Spelljammer chapter or the Eberron chapter in the Vecna book, where the map had several bits that were just like, there's nothing of interest in this portion of the map. There's nothing of interest in this portion of the map. There's nothing of interest in this portion of the map. And I'm just like, why the hell am I going through so much of the map when there is nothing of interest there? Like I get the feeling that, or I get the impulse to go ahead and make a map that feels so realistic that sometimes there's just empty space. And I get that. But there's a better way to go ahead and do that than to build out a room that the players may need to go ahead and like pry their way into, or, like release a trap to get into, or find a secret door into, or something like that. And then just to go ahead and have it be nothing, right? You get that law of diminishing returns, that if I continue to go ahead and force my way through a door, if I have to go ahead and like burn rolls, or if I have to burn abilities or whatever to go ahead and do that, then why am I doing that? You know what I mean? And so that bit in particular, I was very happy with. And I also really liked the fact that they highlighted in every adventure the changes from the original adventure. For those of us that remember the original adventures, like, I think that's a really, really smart thing to do.
Absolutely. Look, you can have a map that's big, and there's always a game design. How realistic do I want this to be? Well, if you wanted it real realistic, most hallways weren't 5 by 10 feet wide or 5 feet wide. They were more like 3.5.
Yeah.
You couldn't get down quarters. Why? They were designed that way to keep exactly what happens in D&D games from happening. You do
Right.
not want two people running abreast. You don't want a barbarian fighter clogging the hole and rushing your defenders, right? You want a
You can't say stuff like that when we're on video.
you want a slender hallway to limit the approach of the enemy. That's the goal when you build a castle or a dungeon or a fortification. Clearly, that doesn't work for the fun of games, so we change things. So there has to be a game design element to fix that, and I think they found that happy medium, because most adventures have at least one or two empty rooms somewhere, but they don't have 15 or 20.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the answer.
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah. Yep. Nothing more to add on that. Actually, that's exactly it. So
Exactly.
I'm
All
not
right.
gonna, yeah, why mess with perfection, right? So, all right. I am going to I'm going to jump on. So, if you can believe it, folks that are out there listening, the show is almost over, actually, because we're going to try with some shorter form stuff here. So, I have some final words. Both of us kind of have some like quick hit topics that we wanted to go ahead and go on here. And I'm not sure how quick hit my topic is going to be here, but we'll try it out and see how it works here. So, this was a blurb that I wrote on my notes here called "I See What You Did There, Watsy." So, the Iron Shadow. Well. So, I'm going to go full tinfoil hat here for a minute and say that the Iron Shadow is a not so thinly veiled metaphor coming from the creative team of Dungeons and Dragons, talking about Hasbro in very explicit terms. we all know that they have not been happy with the bulk of we all know that we as players have not been happy with the bulk of the books that have come out since before the OG Elkerfluffle. Dragonlance was not good. Spelljammer was not good. Vecna had some things that would need to go ahead and be made better to go ahead and make it really sing at the table. We talked about that a lot, right? There are just a lot of missed opportunities in pretty much everything that's come out in the last couple of years. And while some of that is to be expected, it was too much. We can't expect them to hit home runs on everything, but we do expect some home runs, and there haven't been very many.
Yeah.
We also know that there has been significant pressure on the D&D creative staff to produce content which is digestible digitally, allow for microtransactions, and kind of promote the continued video gamification of D&D. I think that the Iron Shadow here is talking not just about the rolling cloud of doom that invades the infinite staircase. Do writers feel like their creativity has been killed, their inspiration sapped, and the spark of their innovation snuffed out, leaving its victims, us, the readers, players, and storytellers, apathetic and full of dread? The shadow fell at Watsy and the shadow fell at Watsy and creativity died. Here's hoping that new leadership there means the Iron Shadow is losing its grip and crawling back to Shadowfell where it belongs.
Nice. I purposely didn't read your notes there, and I had
Yeah,
the opportunity because I
yeah,
wanted to catch that live and for real, and
yeah,
I'm pretty excited. That's
yeah.
either I'm wearing a similar tinfoil hat, or that didn't feel very tinfoil hatty to me
I
because it
don't think
felt
it's the
pretty
hottest take.
real.
Yeah, I don't think it's the hottest take.
It may
I
not
think
be as spicy
yeah,
as we want it to be. There's a
yeah.
pepper in there. It's probably a bell pepper.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that that take is unique, and I don't think that that take is all that spicy. What I think is super spicy and unique is the fact that the writers actually did it. That's where I think the magic is. I think that whether I don't know how I honestly don't know how they did it. I don't know how they convinced the editing staff to go ahead and let them do this. Um, because I think it's pretty blatant. I think it's pretty blatant what that's actually symbolizing. And you know what? Maybe we're wrong, and maybe we're just reading a whole lot into what we think is going on at Watsy and between Watsy and Hasbro and everything like that. Maybe we're wrong, but I don't think that we are.
Yeah.
I think that the illusions that they put up in that little 2 paragraph write up on what the Iron Shadow is, it snuffs the spark of inspiration and leaves its victims apathetic and dull. like, yeah, like, come on now. Wherever the shadow falls, creativity dies. I feel like they are saying a thing without coming right out and saying it. And kudos to them. Look, if that's not what they're saying, and we're totally just putting a meaning on their point here, that's on us. But I don't think that we are. I think that there's certainly smoke here, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's fire. So
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, as I think about my closing thoughts on the Infinite Staircase, I'm going to phrase it as this. These aren't my closing thoughts. These are my thoughts for the night because I intend to be living in this Infinite Staircase space for quite some time. And I invite uh, audience members, Patreons to join me on this particular journey. Folks that I meet at game stores and in conventions join me on this journey. I really like this book. I really like these adventures. I love many of these adventures. The few that I didn't run or know about or know a whole lot about before, as I read them, they were really good too.
yeah,
They were just fun. And I'm going to leave you with this. If you're a GM that's longing for good adventures that have lots of interesting points that really plumb the depths of all the great creatures, monsters, adversaries, and encounter setups you can have, this is the campaign book for you. They're
yep,
there. If you want interesting NPCs that are not necessarily in a conflict with your player characters, and you want to be able to role play them fun, use funny voices, use serious voices, just use your own voice, this is the book for you. And if you want a series of encounters that run the gamut from combat and conflict to interest, RP, and puzzles that are reasonable and solvable by your average player, even newer ones, this is the book for you. This is the game you want to run. And if you don't want to run the whole thing, fine. If you're doing your own homebrew, this is a great. I didn't have anything planned tonight. Let's jump into one of these adventures. I'll pick the adventure that's at the level where my party is and I can hit it. This is a great side quest. Johnny's not there tonight. Well, you went through a doorway. You end up on the infinite staircase. There's not all your party there. You don't need all your party there. You've got these people here because maybe they didn't make it through the portal. The genie decided the ones who were here are the only ones you needed.
Yep.
This is your
Yep.
ultimate get out of jail free because we didn't have all the players in the
Yep.
party at the table that night game.
The
Love
way that
it.
they built the genie is the same way that we built the Silver Man in our Patreon D&D game, because that game was specifically written around the premise that we have all these Patreon subscribers. Not all of them will be there for any particular game session, so we need to be able to chapter by chapter have a different crew of people playing that game. And it was exactly written with that conceit that we don't know who we're going to have, right? And it was done the same way. So it's we can attest it's not easy to get it right. It's a really tricky thing to do. So yeah, but
good stuff. Good
yeah.
stuff.
Okay. Anyway, so that is our show for this evening. First of all, if you like the format that we're doing here tonight, please pop over to YouTube or to Spotify. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notify button to go ahead and get notified every time we go ahead and release one of these videos. With everything that we're doing now, we pretty much have a video coming out every day of the week. So you should go over there, subscribe, and check it out. We have individual content that both Lewanika and I are producing. We have our actual plays that come out on Tuesday, and our main episodes are going to continue to go ahead and come out on Fridays. So really hope that you pop over there and subscribe. And if you're looking for another way to go ahead and support the show here, really go check us out on Patreon. www.patreon.com/ttjourneys. All of our subscribers really help the show. They help us go ahead and continue to go ahead and try out new things like this. I mentioned earlier that we have exclusive D&D exclusive games that we run with our Patreons. So if you want to go ahead and sit at our table with some of the best players that you will ever get the chance to go ahead and sit down with, go check us out at www.patreon.com/ttjourneys. Games with us are only one of the benefits here. There are a bunch of them there, but go check it out. So, and let's see. Last bit of housekeeping here. Next week on the show, we are going to be talking about the last book in the updated Dragonlance trilogy. This is the reminder for Lewanika and I that we should go buy the book and read it or listen to it between now and next Tuesday, so that we can go ahead and actually get into that. But really looking forward to that. The first two books were so good. Really looking forward to diving into the third book of the trilogy and figure out how the hell is Margaret Weiss going to get Destina out of the mess that she has worked herself into. Because boy, that's it got pretty thick in book number 2. So I'm curious how this I don't even know what they're going to do.
How the hands of time will unwind. I am so looking forward to this book. I actually had it on pre-order, so I have it. I have not had the opportunity to start. We've been doing a couple other things, getting ready for this transition, a few others. So I am on vacation from my day job coming up. So I'm looking forward to spending a fair amount of time digging into the latest Dragonlance novel.
Yep. Oh, and I totally lied. There is actually one additional bit of housekeeping that I was going to mention earlier too. So about a month ago, we had talked about Project Kraken, which is the latest adventure path that Tabletop Journeys is putting together for you. Well, the good news on that front is that progress on that is very, very good. Things are falling into place on that. We hope to have a release date on that soon. But yeah, we've been working our butts off on that. So hoping to go ahead and get that out to you guys sooner rather than later. So be watching for that. So, all right, my friend, I think that is our show for this evening. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. If you listen to just the audio version, we would love, as always, to go ahead and hear feedback on this. Do you like the new video format? Do you not like the video format? Do you wish we did more long form stuff? Come at us. Let us know what's up. And yeah, we'll talk to you next week.
We'll talk to you later.
About Dragons of Fate, I think is the name of the book. The third book, whatever the name of the third book is. So So we'll see you next week.
Good night, all.